guess I'm live, yes.
Long time. That's you don't have feedback.
Well, welcome everybody. It's great to see a big turnout and great to have a big breakfast. I see a couple of new faces, I think. Maybe I just don't get around much, but anyway, we're glad you're here. I wanted to take a second because I have the mic to say something about who we are and what we're doing here. Okay, we started this thing 2 years ago in January. And we've been at it ever since, and we're really enjoying it. We've been very, very blessed with great teaching and a great bunch of guys. So all of that's going very well. One of the things I wonder about, though, is that I think maybe people are thinking about the best man name as sort of an advertisement for being in the Army. All right, we're not talking about that kind of best man. The idea of best man came out of the repeated theme in the Bible of weddings, wedding feasts, wedding events, the bride of Christ, etc. So the idea was that if we can get to know Jesus well and better and better and better, that ultimately we might be in position to be the best man at that wedding. So that's really where it comes from, and I think it's a better metaphor for us than joining the Army. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that, and it's sort of a tie-in to Kenny, but we've talked about solely business last couple of years. For those of you who don't know, it's solely business. It's not SOLEY business, as in only business. It is SOULY business, as in business of the soul. And it is a 2-day or 3-day, Friday to Sunday, men's spiritual retreat. And it's a very, very good program. So there's one coming up end of August. August 26th is a Friday to Sunday the 28th. And so we would encourage people to go there. You can go to their website, is the easy way to do it. Who else been? I've been, Michael's been, Robert, Luis. So if you have any questions, maybe color one of us and we could talk about it a little bit. Another thing we've done is we've said that if there are 4 or more guys going to one of these events, okay, men's ministry will have a lottery among those guys and refund the fee to one of them. Okay, so talk to your friends, get a group going, and maybe somebody goes for free. All right, but it's $200. I can't stay home for $200. So it's a pretty good deal to start with. Okay, so the tie-in to Kenny is that's where I met Kenny. I was at Solely back in February, and so Kenny was one of the speakers, and I was very impressed, and got a chance to speak to him and get to know him a little bit there, and then we got together afterwards, and we talked about him coming and joining us one morning here, and so we're very blessed to have him. Kenny has had a 30-year career at Home Depot. I'm not going to talk too much about where he's been and what he's done and all that sort of thing. He can tell you what he thinks we need to know. But there is one thing, the resume continues to grow. He is now if I've got this right, the Executive Vice President of Supply Chain Operations for the Atlanta Food Bank. Is that right? So the Atlanta Food Bank is apparently the biggest in the country, maybe in the world. And I've come to learn time and again that it's absolutely huge and serves a gigantic area here in the Atlanta area. So hats off to Kenny for his new job. And so he also has written this book, Elevated, My Journey to Co-Laboring with God. And it's a great book. I've read it. I know quite a few people who have, considerable faith. But frankly, I don't know too many of them that have taken the time to think it through and sit down and write a book that connects all the parts. And he's done that. And I think he's done it in a very compelling way. So I make that point just because it's something that I don't feel like I could do. And probably most of us would really struggle. And maybe he struggled too, I'm not sure about that, but he got it done, and it's a nice, complete story of how he, was blessed as a child to be in a home where he was in church a lot and continued in that MO. He continued to be in church. He continued to seek God's advice, and he continued to listen and act on what he was hearing. I think a lot of us don't really want to hear everything that God wants to tell us. We're afraid of it. So he's overcome that, and he had a great career at Home Depot, which I guess is what you're going to tell us about, okay? All right. Well, let's give a hand to Kenny Hill for our talk.
Let's see. Good morning. All right, this is great. Thank you for those encouraging words there, Pastor. Nice to hear people say nice things about you. I'm delighted to be here this morning. And Pat mentioned that I grew up in the church. I did. And at the time, I did not appreciate it because I was in church probably 4 days a week. My mom was a single mom. She had 7 kids, so she prayed a lot. So church was actually, there were other alternatives. We were probably the only family in my community that were active Christians, and the results in the lives of the people showed it. And God allowed me to see that having a relationship with him meant something. It wasn't something my mom could make me understand. Dragging me to church didn't sink in, but it provided a foundation that allowed God to reveal himself to me throughout my life. I didn't have my father in my life, which was a big deal to me because that's where you kind of get your identity. That's where you are connecting with who you are to become. And I just thought that was so horrible that, my dad didn't want to have anything to do with me. I was the eldest. So I had a lot of responsibilities to help my mom every day with my little brothers and sisters. And I'm thinking, if my dad was here, it would be a lot better. If my dad was here, it wouldn't be so hard. If my dad was here, I wouldn't have to face the bully. Because when you're the oldest in your family, there's no big brother to go home to get when somebody's picking on you, right? You got to handle it. But God allowed me to see that, we all have adversity. I met friends and know people now whose fathers were in their lives, but they were alcoholics. They didn't treat them, or they didn't father well. There are people whose father were there, but they were too busy chasing corporate success to invest in their son's relationship with them. So I thought my situation was unique, that my dad wasn't there physically. But as I continue to walk with God, he showed me that we all face adversity. It looks a little different for us and different people, but we all have it. And then some of us did have a great father who was what he was supposed to be. But somewhere along the line, we still run into adversity. So I just want to talk a little bit about adversity, if that's okay. Anybody familiar with that subject? Anybody? Okay, yeah, okay. So I want to make sure I'm not, speaking a foreign language this morning. Psalms 24:10 says that if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. So as much as we don't want to embrace adversity, as much as we don't go looking for it, as much as it is something that, you know, we put at the end of the menu if we're ordering our day, it's a part of life. And through my life, God has shown me that it's not about avoiding adversity. It's about how you deal with it. It's about how you handle it and what you allow God to become during those times of adversity. So for me, growing up in poverty, not having a father, so the poverty was an external thing, the shortage. The internal thing was insecurity, not feeling good enough because my own dad didn't want to have anything to do with me. So the internal and the external adversity for me shaped the way I saw life. It shaped the way I perceive my relationship with God, because I didn't have an active father showing me what love is, showing me what encouragement was. My reflection and my interpretation of God was this person who's keeping track of everything for accountability and very present anytime you stepped outside the lines. That was my thing, well, probably from what I heard at church. But how off-centered my focus was about who God was. Just somebody who's there to keep track of my mistakes, my insufficiencies. So as I got older, get through high school and figured out, you know what, this poverty thing's not working for me. Going to church all the time doesn't seem to be changing it. So, you know, I need a better plan. So I figured and looked at the lives of people who I wanted to be like and saw they all had education. They all were connected. They knew people. They had networks. So I said, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix this mess in my life. So off I went to college. I'm escaping the burdens and the turmoil of my past, but still carrying that same heart of insufficiency, not enough, self-doubt. And you know, that shows up everywhere you go. I thought I was leaving it. I left the neighborhood I grew up in, the poverty and the crime. I left that. But I was carrying with me the same stuff on the inside, that I wasn't as good as everybody else. I didn't measure up. I didn't have enough self-confidence in who I was that no matter where I was good enough. So in college, I started working for the Home Depot as a student, being engaged in a growing company, a company that was out in California at that time, a new market, growing leaps and bounds. A big pull from the company to recruit talent. So they were after me, Kenny, you can be a manager, you have a future here. And I said, well, yeah, but I got to finish my degree. Because to me, that was something that was going to tell me I was good enough, I was good as everybody else. If I could get my degree, that was going to replace this awful feeling I had inside, not measuring up, not being somebody that my own dad wanted to have around. So thinking that the degree was going to fulfill that hole in my heart, I pursued that and worked at Home Depot. So it took me like 6 years to get a 4-year degree because I was working and going to school. But I said, I'm going to set an example for my brothers and sisters. And if they say I can do it, they can do it. And maybe we'll all get out of this yucky feeling about we're not good enough. So after graduating, Home Depot's headquarters is here in Atlanta. So I'm like, I'm headed to Atlanta to set this company on fire. I am going to, I've got 4.5, 5 years experience already. Now I have a degree. Look out, world, Kenny's coming. So packed my little Volkswagen, drove across country, got to Atlanta, and man, every door that I knew was going to be open every opportunity I knew I was gonna have, every area that I knew I was gonna stand out in, everything closed, collapsed, and shut down. And I was working at it. I mean, I was given 110% and getting 0% recognition. And I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. What's going on here? So I went from effort and working hard and working overtime and extra time to saying, well, you know what? I need to be connected. I need to have the right circle of supporters. So I started networking. I started making sure that I knew the right people, that they knew me. So I'm doing all these things to, one, prove I'm good enough. Because the college degree was supposed to open the doors for me, and it didn't. It seemed like they closed. And now I'm figuring there's just something that I'm not doing right that's going to turn things around. The Bible says, Psalms 127, unless the Lord builds a house, they that build labor in vain. Unless the Lord builds a career, they that work in vain. Unless the Lord builds the marriage, they that are in marriage are laboring in vain. Whatever we're trying to do, if we're not making him the center of it, we are toiling. And that's what that second verse of that says. It is vain that you rise early and go to bed late, eating the bread of anxious toil. And that's exactly what my life was. I was full of anxiety and I was toiling, not getting anything near a good return on my effort, but determined that it was going to be the next day of hard work and connections that led me to break out of my slump, led me to break out of what's holding me back. So a 30-year career with Home Depot, 15 years of that was me toiling, doing everything I could think of, everything I could read about, everything that was in a business management curriculum to try to get ahead with nothing working. Still feeling inside, I don't measure up. There's something missing. There's something that I don't have that everybody else does, and that's why promotions are not coming for me. That's why the job titles, the salary increases, all those things that I'm pursuing are not happening, something that I'm missing. So God has a way of letting us run as fast and as hard as we want. And when we run out of energy and effort to keep running, he'll sit down next to us and talk to us. So I'm sitting there thinking, what is this that is plaguing me? What is it that has me fenced in? Why am I unable to see the result of the people in this company that I trained? I was an expert trainer. If I trained you, it was a guarantee you were going to be promoted. But it wouldn't happen for me. So about 6 years into that 15-year toil, I got married, my first wife. We were going to church, attending regularly, reading my Bible, praying every day. And still nothing changed. And as I look back, all I've done is I really did know I needed God because nothing was working. So I was like, okay, I got to go back to my roots. I need Christ in my heart and in my life. So I rededicated my life to God and began to do the things I knew I needed to do. But my agenda had not changed. I wanted the promotion. I wanted the corner office. I wanted the salary and the recognition that was going to tell me I was good enough. And now that I rededicated my life, I just hired the best coach in the universe to help me get it. So I hadn't come to God saying, here's my life. What do you want me to do with it? I said, here's the stuff I want, God. I'm giving you my life now. Let's go get it. Big difference. Big difference. But that was where I was. I was like, I'm checking all the boxes. God, you're about accountability, right? Well, here, I'm there, I'm doing it. So let's go get my stuff. So I came fully to the end of myself when my first wife left me. Totally unexpected. I was faithful. I used to work and bring the check that I considered not good enough. I bring the check home and said, sweetheart, here's the check. And then she would give me money for gas to get to work for the next 2 weeks to the next check. She handled it. Finances for the house. I mean, that was my dedication is here, I'm doing everything I can. Here's the money. You handle it. I'm going back to work. When she left, the enemy jumped on my shoulder. And he said, you call yourself a Christian. You can't even keep your own marriage intact. And again, that not enough on the inside of me rose up. You can't even keep your own household intact. How can you do anything of value for the house of the Lord? Well, there's scripture in the Bible somewhere that says something like that. So here's the internal turmoil again. First, it was not, my dad doesn't want to have anything to do with me, I'm not good enough. Then it's, I'm not getting promoted at work because I'm not good enough. Now, I can't keep my own household and marriage together, I'm not good enough. You start seeing the common thread here. So in that time of me at my end, and that's where God wants some of us. At the end of everything we can do ourselves, at the end of everything we know, at the end of everything we can produce on our own, come to the end of ourselves and surrender. Now, I was already a Christian. I was already going to church. I was already reading my Bible and praying. But I still had my agenda. Here's the stuff I want, God. Let's go get it. I had to come to the end of myself saying, that doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. I need you to help me because somewhere I'm off track. And I remember I was laying on the floor, carpet, a little thicker than this carpet, crying a puddle of tears in the carpet, saying, God, this is not fair. God, what have I done? God, where are you? And a small, still voice whispered to me, love is the answer to your situation. And I said, that has nothing to do with what I want. I'm a nice guy. I've always been a nice guy. I treat everybody fair. I mean, love has nothing to do with what I'm going through. The guy showed me, he said, love gives, remember? For God so loved the world that he gave. And I said, God, you know my checkbook. You know where I am from. I have nothing more to give. I give to my church. I serve in my church. I have nothing more to give. And then the next thing he spoke to my heart changed my life. He said, kindness is free. And I said, you know what, God? I'm going to do this love and kindness thing just to show you that it has nothing to do with my situation. Honestly, I said, I'm gonna do this, but I'm telling you now, I'm talking to God. This has nothing to do with that. So I went back to work and I stopped focusing on why I was not good enough, the things I had not achieved, my wife who had left me, my career that was going nowhere. And I started focusing on how can I show love and kindness to everybody that crosses my path? How can I show love and kindness to the people that report to me? At the time I was assistant store manager of the operations. I had about 30 people in the store that reported to me. I said, how can I pour my life into these people and make them the best that they can be at whatever they want to be? And two things happened. One, every time I went out of my way to help somebody, to bless somebody, it began to heal my heart. The brokenness from my wife leaving me, the inadequacy of feeling I wasn't good enough. It was like God was stitching my heart together, stitch by stitch, as I was pouring myself out to help others. And it became the strength I needed to just get up every day, is what I was doing for other people. And before long, it began to revolutionize my personal brand. Everybody in the store wanted to work for me because I was investing. I wanted to know their dreams. I wanted to know how I could help them achieve what they wanted out of life. And I was saying, look, let me show you how Home Depot can help you get to what you want in life. That was a lot different than my previous conversations. I would be like, let me explain to you your responsibilities when you get to work. This is what we need you to do. This is how we need you to do it. And that sounds fair if you're coming to pick a paycheck up. But I changed over into, I'm now investing in the people that God allows me to be around to represent Him. And He told me, my church had an opening in the youth ministry. I was a volunteer already. And I said, this is my shot. I'm getting out of Home Depot. I'm going into the ministry. I don't know how the budget's going to look. I'll figure it out later. I went and interviewed with the director. They said, Kenny, we love you. The Sundays you're here, the kids have a great time. We'd love to have you on staff. Why don't you go home and pray about it and come back and let us know? If it's good with you and God, it's good with us. I was like, yes. Getting out of this place where nothing's good enough. I didn't even get home. I don't think I was going to pray, to tell you the truth. I was going to call back the next day and say, I'm in. Just being honest. So since I wasn't going to pray about it, God jumped into my car with me on the way home and said, hey, you're not leaving your job because your job is your mission field. And of course, I had something to say. Mission field? God, people in Asia and Africa, India, they need missionaries. They never heard of Jesus Christ. These people I work with, they know who you are. He says, yeah, they know who I am. They've heard about me. But now they need to see me. They need to see my character. And it's your job to show them. And that's what gave me, one, the knowing I wasn't getting out of it. And two, that my focus had to be on displaying God's character. Being concerned about everything that I could learn about people on my team or a customer that walked in the door. Couldn't do it on my own, but God gave me the strength. And it healed my heart and it propelled my career. Because when I got to pick who in the store was allowed on my team, because everybody wanted to be a part of my team became the best in the region. And when your team's the best in the region, pretty soon they start noticing, hey, that performance wasn't always like that. Well, what's going on there? And then before you know it, Kenny Hill was a name that all of the corporate leaders began to hear. And it elevated my career beyond measure. It gave me a platform to be the walking, talking display of God's love and kindness. And allowed me to develop, train, teach others in walking in God's love in the workplace. So it's three things that I hope you get out of this. Is one, I had to come to the end of myself. As long as I had the plan and was inviting God to help me get my plan, I was getting nowhere. Two, once I got to the end of myself, He invited me to develop in His nature. The Bible says God is love. So if we're not rooted and we're not focused on everything we're about from a standpoint of love, we're missing the point. We're missing the mark. We're missing what He's trying to do to us. And when we develop our basis and what we focus on, no matter what our business title is, no matter what our industry is, when we go from the point of love. And let me give you what some of the opposite looks like, so it doesn't sound like I'm just talking Christianese. There are so many people in business that operate through fear. The boss is coming. We've got an inspection. The auditors are coming. Fear, fear, fear. This is happening. These people are coming, so we better work, 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 work. That sound familiar to anybody? There are people who are motivated by greed. This is what we want. So we're going to work until we get it. So there are other things that motivate people in business. There are other things that motivate people in life. But when we choose love, the love for our shareholders, they deserve a return. So we're going to do our best to see that our shareholders are taken care of, to see that our customers are taken care of. As a leader, to see that my people are taken care of. When you choose love as your motivation, you're inviting God in to what you're doing. And I learned that when you invite him in, the results are going to be supernatural. Last thing I want to share before I take questions, or I don't know what's next. God showed me that when you invite him in through love being the foundation of what you're doing and why you're doing it, that's co-laboring with God. That is allowing him to work through you. You're carrying his agenda. And when we do that, we're doing just like Jesus. When Jesus says, the Son can do nothing but what he sees the Father do. The words I speak to you, they're not mine. They're the Father's. Over and over and over again, Jesus tells us, this is not me. I'm representing the Father. He even told his disciples, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. God wants to work through us, that when people see you, they see the Father. Who's the Father? God is love. God blessed my career beyond measure. And at 30 years, he said, okay, that's it. Something else for you to do. And I'm like, God, this is the time of my life. I was a district manager at the time. I had 10 stores that reported to me. We were crushing every sales mark. We were promoting people. I was like, what do you mean this is it? This is a dream job. Everybody in the company wants this job. But I knew enough of how I tried to do things on my own to know that if he said it's enough, it was time to stop, because doing it by myself doesn't work. 30 years I retired. My wife and I, we started a foundation. We invested in some property, renovated it. I took a week of vacation to be on site when the city of Atlanta came to do the CO inspection. And I'm amazed at this development of townhouses that we purchased, because it was fit to be demolished when we bought it. It really should have been bulldozed. But I hired a contractor, said fix it. I was still working at Home Depot, so I didn't have time, but I could trust them. And when it was done, it was transformed. So I said, okay, God, what do I do with this now? I'm still working. I don't have time to, do I sell this? What's the plan? And he spoke to my heart and said, do for people's lives what you did for this property. Transform it. And I was like, wow, I don't even know what that looks like. But I started telling my friends, hey, my wife and I, we want to use our properties to transform people's lives. My CPA said, well, whoever you want to help, I'll teach them financial literacy. Attorney friend of mine says, whoever you want to help, I'll teach them entrepreneurship. Another person, I'm certified as a health coach and nutrition, I'll teach them what to eat. All the people we needed came together to volunteer their time to help whoever we were going to transform their lives using the property as a place to live. So we reached out to shelters in Atlanta. And just so be it, the first one we reached out to focused on single mothers with infants. So we took in families from shelters. So me growing up in a single mom household, letting God transform my life, we're now able to provide housing for homeless single moms and their kids. Being able to surround them with what they need resource-wise, love and support-wise, career, spiritual, and parental training to get that family from a shelter to sustainability. That is called the Launchpad Foundation. We used our pad to launch families back on track for their destinies. Since 2014, that's what we've been doing until next Tuesday when I show up at the food bank to take over supply chain and operations. And God blessed me to be able to hire Mr. Isaiah Jasmine to oversee this ministry, to make sure that we're still impacting lives and showing people what love looks like. Thank you for your time. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
What was the story behind the book?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, he asked, what was the story behind the book? During the pandemic, someone asked me to give my testimony and to a men's group. We were online, of course, and I did it, and they liked it so much, they said, you got to come back next week and do it again. So I was like, okay. So I came back the next week and shared more of my story. And it became where they said, you got to write this. This is, people won't believe this unless you need to write it. So I started getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning every morning to have time to write. And God sent me a helper to keep me on track because my mind was all over the place. Mr. Lanny Richardson, who just had surgery yesterday for kidney stones. So keep Lanny in your prayers. But Lanny and I went through my history and my walk, and God reminded me of stuff because this is 30 years from the time I grew up. I'm 57. So he brought stuff back to me as clear as day, like it happened yesterday, to allow me to remember and capture. And he showed me things that I hadn't even, to that time, realized. Like the whole thing of, I was a Christian, but I was inviting God to help me with my plan for years and wondering why it wasn't working. That didn't come clear to me until I started writing the book. So yeah, it became from giving my testimony to God saying, you need to go ahead and document this and share it with people. And so today, I would like to give everybody a free copy of that book on your way out. Not because it's a cheap book or, but I want to bless you with my story. And hopefully when you finish reading it, you'll give it to somebody else. But thanks for that question. Any other questions?
So, kidding. Home Depot is known for having very, let's say, strong culture, right? Very business-driven culture.
Yes.
So, just curious about how operating from a place of love and kindness, if that ever ran up against barriers, or if you think it ever maybe drew the wrong attention in that environment.
Yes. So anytime you're going to take a stand for God, there's going to be opposition, adversity, right? It's going to come. So there were people who were determined that I was not the kind of leader that could lead above where I was because of my perception and my approach, right? And it came out where God showed himself on my behalf because I would not change. So I'll give you one quick story. One of my general managers, when I was an assistant, threatened me because we used to take back returns. If you ever spent time with people, you could take back something you didn't buy from Home Depot. We take it back, right? Well, eventually that changed and it became so rigid that I took something back that the customer brought because they said it didn't work. And the manager told me, look, if you keep taking back stuff that you shouldn't, your career is going to be over. That same manager had his boss, the district manager, call me in the office about my departments. And out of my manager's mouth in front of his boss, the district manager, he said, the next time one of your departments is out of line, it's going to take God himself to keep you from getting fired. He knew I was a Christian. And he said out of his mouth, it's going to take God himself to keep you from getting fired. If you fast forward from that day, about 6 years, I was the district manager. He had left the company and went to work for Best Buy. He calls me because things didn't work out at Best Buy. Says, Kenny, I've been trying to get back into the company. And I know you have some assistant manager openings in your district. And I would love to come work for you. And I said, I'd love to have you on my team. So I was the assistant, his assistant. His boss and him are grilling me about my character and is it right for the business. God shows me fast forward. I'm the district manager. He's out of the company, wanting to get back in, asking for a job that I used to have. That is how, when you stand your ground in love, God shows up.
Did he ever acknowledge that, like how he treated you?
He never brought it up. And I never brought it up either. But we both knew. We both knew. And because it wasn't about me being right and being wrong, or look at me now. When what you're doing is out of love, you're saying, God, you're sending me. I mean, this guy's talented. He used to be my boss. Now he's going to be not even leading my team. He's going to be one of the managers on my team. So again, my team continues to flourish. I could have been, who do you think you are calling me? There's a lot of ways I could have like preserved self. And if I had still been that guy who was not enough, I would have had something to say. If I was still that guy who didn't measure up inside, I would have been like, okay, well, I remember a time, you know? But that, but thank God for his love. Thank God for his love. Any other questions?
So you said you were a trainer early on. Hold on, sorry. So Kenny, you were a trainer early in your career. And when you became a district manager, and God helped you change you, how did you bring that message of love to the trainees in your organization to change the culture?
Yeah. So I didn't have the title of a trainer. It was just, I was good. And so people sent people to me to train. Right. And I was doing it at that time because I had to, because everybody I was training was getting promoted. And I was like full of envy, jealousy. Like, wow, these people are getting promoted and I'm the one that has to show them how to do this business. So, but as I got promoted, the value for me to say, when we're training somebody, we want them to understand the heart behind what we do. Not just the procedural steps. We want to understand the heart. Because I tell people, we have to look at our business from 3 lenses. How does my decision impact my shareholder or my customer? How does my decision impact my associate team? And then, how does my decision impact our bottom line? A lot of times people think first bottom line. This is how this affect my bottom line. But if you're taking extraordinary care of your shareholders and your customers, and you're taking extraordinary care of your associate team, the bottom line will take care of itself. And that's something that Arthur Blank and Bernie Marcus truly believed in, truly invested in us. But once you get out of their presence, leaders lead from who they are. And that's something you all have to, if you have an organization, you need to know how people lead outside of your presence. Because you can be about the standard of love, caring about people. If you never go to inspect your team to see, are they leading that way? Or are they just taking their own message to your customers, your team? You're going to have less than you should in return. Something Chick-fil-A does very well. That they know at the very bottom line of every customer interaction what that feels like. It's not easy, but they're excellent at it. That's a great question. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Kenny, obviously coming from a single parent home, married, and any kids, grandkids?
Great question.
The balance
Yes.
of work life.
I didn't give you guys the whole thing on that. So God brought me, so through me training somebody, of all things, another person who's going to be promoted to head, right? I'm in the midst of my wife leaving me, still trying to process that. How can I call myself a man of God? How can I tell everybody anything about Christ? How can I, question myself still? God sends somebody to my location to be trained for upper management. He's an engineering background, he's been at all these big companies, they're gonna teach him retail. So they send him to my location and the general manager sends him to Kenny the trainer. So this is an opportunity. I could say, you know what, I've done this enough. I've seen enough people come to me, learn from me, and then take off. And I'm still left here. Or I can say, you know what, I'm gonna pour into this man everything I can to help him help our company. Being in the broken state that I was, the tendency was to say, you know what, I got problems of my own. You learning this company, you're a smart guy, figure it out. But I did. Perry Smith became a lifeline for me. He had been a pastor before. His wife left him while he was pastoring. And he spoke to me, Kenny, I've been through what you're going through. You're gonna make it. Kenny, God has not left you. When your wife left you, the Holy Spirit didn't leave you. Kenny, I've had to get up on Sunday and preach and look at the empty seat my wife used to occupy, but she left with another guy. And I had to preach the compassion and love of God to my congregation. So when you think you're suffering and you're going through the worst of worst, there's somebody who's had it worse. Because adversity is on all of our schedules at some point. But he invested in me. And because and the thing is, I could have blew him off, right? I had every reason in my mind, the enemy wanted me to say, don't do this again. But that was the best decision, me showing love in that situation was the best decision for my life and my marriage, because his wife went to school in San Diego, at San Diego State. I went to UC San Diego, and we knew each other. I used to go to their house because I didn't want to be in my empty house and sleep on their couch. They became like an extended family. When his son was born, his first son, he had 3 daughters. When his first son was born, he said, Kenny, I want you to be his godfather. And that was like somebody told me, you just won the lottery. For as broken as I was, for somebody to say, I want you to be my son's godfather, meant the world to me. When his son was born, the doctor that delivered his son is now my wife.
And wasn't he the one that invited you to the basketball game?
No, that was another guy. That was a different guy.
Tell us about this.
So yeah, they used to send people from the operations department at the corporate office into the field to try out new operational procedures. So when somebody comes to my store, the general manager says, "Go see Kenny, he runs our operations." So again, I got all this work I'm doing. I got 30 people reporting me, thousands of customers coming in a day, but I take time to say, "Hey, how can I help you?" This is what we're doing. We're trying to automate some of your paperwork so it's easier, it takes less time. So I listen, and I listen intently, not just to say, "Okay, I listened and I told them what they needed to know." God gave me the ability to be concerned about whatever somebody brought before me. Whatever was important to them, it became important to me. If I didn't have the answer, then I would either find it or I'd find somebody else who did. And that mindset poured over into this scenario. This guy goes back to his team and says, "There's a great guy at the Cascade store. Any questions we have, we should go ask him." So he comes back with like all these other people. And I'm like, "Geez, what did I open up here?" But one of the people in that group reported directly to the CEO for operations. And I'm sharing what I know about our practices and our procedures and how they could help automate it and save us time. They walk away totally impressed. The next week I get a phone call from the guy. He said, "Hey, my boss said I should invite you to come play basketball with us." I'm like, "Basketball?" "Yeah, can you meet us at 4:45 at this elementary school?" Man, that's like, okay. I go just because he invited me. I hadn't played basketball in a long time. But when I walk in there, the top 2 people of the top 3 people in the company are the captains for the basketball team. So Bob Nardelli was our CEO at the time. He wasn't there. But his second and his third in command were the 2 captains for the basketball team. I played basketball with them for the next year. They knew me by name. They knew what I did. They knew where I was. And that was a part, again, my career being strapped to a rocket ship that I couldn't have orchestrated on my own if I tried in a million years. But because I had embraced the love of God, it opened doors for me that never would have been opened otherwise. So thanks for remembering that.
Well, I'm remembering also your mentor, I'll call him, who encouraged you to apply to and go to the best college you can get into.
Oh, yeah.
And you applied to all the California state colleges and did fine.
Yes, so having people who have your best interest at heart is a remarkable thing. And when God is trying to reveal himself to you, sometimes it comes through other people, right? Like you and me. When you leave here today, you're gonna have an opportunity to interface with people. Take a moment and just say, "God, are you leading me to say anything, do anything to help this person?" Just be open. Because he's talking about somebody who transformed my life as I was thinking I didn't need God, but I needed education. God allowed me to go to get the best education in my area that was available to me. Partially so I could understand that it couldn't replace him in my life. But also so that when it came time for me to use the skills he put in me, they've been sharpened to their best ability. That same mentor insisted that I write a letter to the CEO of our company, Mr. Bernie Marcus. It's my senior year in college. I'm working in the store. It's like he didn't want to hear from me. He's got a million other things to do. Write the letter. I write the letter, and in 3 weeks, I get a return mail. He took my letter and he wrote on it, "Kenny, congratulations on your upcoming degree. Please reach out to our Vice President of Human Resources. We're excited about your future." those things that God placing you on the path that he has for you. God taking care of you when you think you got it figured out and you know it. That's his love and his mercy showering us. Anybody else? Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Please get the book. You'll enjoy it. You can read it at night before you go to bed. It won't put you to sleep, though, I promise. So, thank you so much.
Back there thinking the same things I am, but Kenny, I stood before this room on Sunday afternoon with our committee of 100, and I shared our renewed vision for this church, which was to lead with the love of Christ. We want to be a church that leads with love. We want to be a church that leads with the love of Christ. We're going to stand our ground in love. Gives me chills. So we just had this conversation. We want to be a church that leads with the love of Christ and welcomes all to strengthen ourselves, neighbors, and neighborhoods, not just here in Dunwoody, but throughout the world, whether it be Guatemala, whether it be a Habitat build, whether it be in Kenya, wherever God is calling us. And you said it, we're going to show people what love looks like. And so thank you for confirming the discernment work that we've been doing over the last several months. It just does my heart good. I preached Sunday on about being at the right place at the right time. Sometimes it feels like the wrong place at the right time, but if you listen to where God is leading, it becomes the right place at the right time. You were a testimony to that today. So thank you. Thank you.